Should you pay off your mortgage before retiring? Usually, says the Wall Street Journal. We got this guy right here. What's his name? Glenn Ruffinock? All right. Paying off a mortgage can give you peace of mind. Interesting. But is it always the best financial planning choice? And this guy asks, I'd like to get your thoughts about the pros and cons about paying off a mortgage. I think the conventional wisdom is to do so. Are there any exceptions? And Glenn says, I agree with the conventional wisdoms, but there can be exceptions. Well, let's start with the unsettling number, says Glenn. So this will make you say, oh my goodness, there's no way we can retire. I can't, man. We're going to go into this, how lack of unsettling this is. A recent report by the GAO, Government Accounting Office, found that the median amount of debt among households with older households, the median amount of debt among older households with debt, right, was about 3 times as high in 2016 than it was in 1989. Now, this is adjusted for inflation. So my first thing was, and he doesn't say it, he should have said adjusted for inflation. I think the GAO is using 2019 dollars. All right. So, couple things about this statement. The median amount of debt among households with debt. So first and foremost, that means households with debt have more debt than they had, adjusted for inflation, about 3 times more than they had in 1989. But that doesn't say anything because that's just the people with debt, all right, first and foremost. That's all we're talking about here so far. Hold on a second. Get the dogs. That's neither bad nor good. It just is. I mean, it could be bad if you're amongst those people with debt, but there's so much more to the story. All right. To be more specific, and here's the issue that is more important, the percentage of households with home debt, home equity lines of credits, mortgages, and home equity loans rose to 43% from 30% over the same time period. Okay. So we have 2 completely different numbers that don't tell the story that he's trying to perpetuate here. So a unsettling number that the median amount of households with the median debt among households with debt, which inherently excludes all those without debt, has increased by 3-fold from 1989. Okay, not bad, sure. Doesn't mean it's necessarily bad for you. It certainly doesn't mean it's necessarily bad for those people. And I'll show you why here in a second. The percentage of older households with home debt has also increased from 30% to 43%. All right, that's neither home nor bad. It's just the percentage of households with home debt. That doesn't say anything. All right, so these two, anyway. So this is where conventional wisdom kicks in. Once you're retired, your income is basically fixed. So your debt, so you pay off your debt and you'll reduce that amount of fixed expenses because the debt is kind of fixed too. All right, so that's what he's saying, 100%. That means a greater percentage of your income will go towards paying off your mortgage and credit card bills, and a smaller amount will be to do other things if you have debt, 100%. All right. So I think it's prudent to reduce and ideally eliminate debt before retiring. Doing so makes it easier for retirees and their nest eggs to ride out downturns. Yep, exactly. And then he goes into some exceptions, and the exceptions are all the same stuff. They're basically saying, hey, you can do better by investing, basically buy term and invest the rest strategy, basically invest or max out your mortgage, only pay 3%. You could get better than that in the markets. I don't agree with that. I mean, yes, that's true, but I don't think that's a worth strategy pursuing, frankly, especially if you're retired. All right. However, I want to look at the GAO stuff because he did talk about the GAO numbers here, and this is the link he had. Debt increased for older Americans over time, but implications vary by debt type. All right, so debt did increase for Americans over time, older Americans over time. And this is the one that I want to point out right here. All right, so my first thing with Glenn I was taking issue with, he said right here, and we're saying, because man, I just wish these guys would dive deeper into this. The median amount of debt among households with debt. All right, so that might mean literally if 20% of the households had debt before and only 5% of the households have debt, the median amount of income of debt amongst households with debt is not very telling. It's just not. However, we actually look at the GAO number and we can see the percentage of households with any debt, and these are people age 50 or older. So we see the percentage of households. These 2 numbers right here are better because they paint a different story than what Glenn was showing, which is, you would think, is alarming. I show you why it's not. Percentage of households with debt, with any debt, and these are people age 50 or older, and this is in 1989 or 2019 numbers. I could have sworn I saw someplace, but anyway, I know what it is. It's in here someplace, but just gonna trust me on that. Anyway, so right here, 57% of the Americans over 50 had debt in 1989. 71% have debt in 2016. That's not a significant jump, but this is the median median leverage ratio. All right, so what the hell is a leverage ratio? I don't even know. So let's see what they say is a leverage ratio. So this is a little bit like, okay, leverage ratio, is that the amount of debt they have relative to the fair market value? I don't know. So let's go to, we're gonna go leverage ratio. What the hell is that? I don't know. Debt stress, the median of ratio of debt to assets, known as a leverage ratio, a measure of debt stress. Okay, so the median leverage ratio is the leverage ratio is the median ratio of debt to assets. Okay, good. The median ratio of debt to assets. So we go from 10% debt to assets in 1989, and we go to 20% debt to assets. So we've basically we've doubled our debt to assets. All right. So we have more people with debt. We've doubled our debt to assets. You're like, oh my goodness. That doesn't tell the whole picture. I can share with you what tells a better picture. All right. Now here's interesting. Estimated percentage of households with any debt. All right. So hold on a second. You guys are still with me here because this is percentage of households 50 or older. So 1989, if you're 50 years old, you're 80 years old now, if that makes sense, right? Yeah, you're 80 years old now. All right, so 2016, if you're 50 years old, you're 55 years old now. Does that kind of make sense? Now, this is a longitudinal study where they're looking at the age cohort. People, estimated percentage of households with any debt for those born in 1931 to 1941. And so this says, hey, if this is 1992, so those people were born from 1931 to 1941 were just basically 60 years old, right? Because if you're born in 1932, is 1992, you're 60. The debt percentage of households with any debt fell from 68% to less than 40%. Shocking. The median leverage ratio fell from basically 18 to, what's that, 13. Shocking. So we have two different groups of people here. We got the same cohort, those born from 1931 to 1941. The amount of debt they carried fell through the roof. The number of people in debt fell through the roof. The older you get, the less debt you have. All right, that's cohort 1. Now, cohort 2 is anybody who's 50 years old in 1989. All right, anybody who's 50 years old in 1989. Which means if you were, and anyone who's 50 years old in 1992, so if you were 47 years old in 1989, you did not fall in this. If you're 47 years old in 1989, you did fall in this. I hope that makes sense. So we have, it's perpetual of 50 years and older. I hope you can understand what I'm saying. But you see those same people who are 50, as they age, they have less and less debt. So to throw the median in here with age 50 or older, you don't want to do that because you're basically taking the people who are youngest with the most debt they have. Me, I'm 51, my most debt, but this is a time I'm paying it down my prime earnings years. So you're throwing people here who are in their late 80s and 90s who don't have that much debt and put them in here as well with the people who have the most debt, the people in their high earning years. It doesn't make sense to do that. It's actually stupid. But that's not even that. It gets better. Here's net worth by age of reference person. I cannot stress this enough. So we're going to go, this is a Federal Reserve .gov study, and we're going to show you. Net worth consists of assets minus debt. That's what net worth is. All right, so I want to show you something, and this is in 2019 dollars. I think it's 2019 dollars. Yeah, right here, 2019 dollars. So in 1989, if you were 55 to 64, the median net worth was $195,000. Net worth is what? Again, assets minus debt. Fast forward till 2019, and 2019 dollars, 55 to 64, the median net worth is 213,000. Interesting, isn't it? So what happens is if their debt might be growing, but their assets are growing by a bigger amount. So they've increased their assets by $18,000, even if their debt is increased. Not increase their net worth by $18,000. So even if their debt is increased, their assets have increased by more. The net worth of people in 65 to 74 in 1989 was 154,000. The net worth of people 65 to 74 in 2019, what do we say, 65 to 74? 65 to 74 is what? 266,000. Interesting, is it not? So we see 65 to 74, 154, 65 to 74 now, 264. You know what? 266. Increased by $100,000. You know why? Because their debt's being paid down. Going back to this chart right here. The older you get, the less debt you have. The older you get, the less debt you have, the more net worth you have, because net worth, part of the figuring of net worth is debt. 65.74 net worth 154, 65.74 net worth 266. 75 and older net worth 144, 75 and older 254, $100,000. Not to be able to see this, 45 to 54 net worth 145, 195, 45 to 54 net worth 168. Well, that would show you their net worth is going down, and we know why for a fact. The cost of housing is up significantly from 1989. So let's look at debt. I can almost assure you the debt on 45 to 54 has gone up. I haven't done this yet, so I'm going on a limb here. 45 to 54 debt 47,000 in 1989 median. 45. Let me get my face out of there. 45 to 54. 108. The debt level has doubled, more than doubled for 45 to 54-year-olds. Shocking. The reason, of course, the houses have gone up so high. All right, so we go to assets then. 45 to 54, right here. 279 assets, right here. 286. So their assets have gone up, but the debt has gone up more. So that's why their debt is higher, or the net worth is lower, I should say, relative to their what it was 30 years ago. Well, that would only make sense. But then you're throwing a 45 to 54-year-old cohort in there, where these guys right here are saying for people over 50 years old. And didn't he have a chart in there? Yeah, he had a chart in here someplace. I guess it's the GAO right here. So there's a chart, 50 years old. But what, I mean, 50-year-old cohort, 45 to 54 is different than a 50. I mean, I'm telling you, man, it's two completely separate things in there. Anyway, the point being, this doesn't bother me in the least. Assets are going up a bit more than net worth is. But if you're 45 to 54, that means you're in your preem working years, and you're probably in your preem borrowing years as well. You're primo. So you're buying a bigger home. You're spending more money. You got college debt. All that stuff, once you turn the corner around 55 to 60, starts dropping, as the numbers say. So to use this as negative, as startling or unsettling, is freaking stupid. It's the exact opposite. Our net worth is growing by leaps and bounds. Our debt is being paid off as we get older. That's all positive stuff, man. Anyway, that's why you pay off your mortgage anyway. Just as a peace of mind. And the peace of mind is all that matters. All right, love to hear your thoughts. We'll see you.